If there are any damaged file boxes, see if they can be dried out. If there are boards and floors that are wet and damaged, let them dry out and proceed throughout. Then that should be enough for one day. Do not use rat poisoning. Do not plug up their holes. Let them come and go for the winter. And in the spring and summer, we will settle things with them, ask them to leave. And then we can plug up the holes and clean up the museum and paint it again and salvage anything if there is anything left. You can imagine what a heartbreaker that is for Franklin and for Glendora. We thank you all, the whole world, that we hope all of Franklin's newspaper writings are over here in Happy House 3 where they're dry and safe. We know that all of the archives are over here in Happy House 3. Michael Dumont said that the DVD discs with the paper covers, that the covers were wet. Okay, let the covers dry. Don't touch them. And I think we will do 6 columns a day, and we will not go frenetic about this. Unfortunately, many of the files have been chewed into confetti. Glendora has no personal knowledge of this at all. It's all hearsay through Michael Dumont. Michael Dumont said he'll be here tomorrow morning, Monday, November the 9th at 8 a.m. And we'll just go through those steps as we just listed below. Can you add anything to it? I wonder what the audio, there's about 5,000 audio tapes in the museum. Well, that's it. That's what comes from above. And we will do it with love, with a heart full of love. And we will do it harmlessly. And we will remember that the thing that we enjoy most is helping others. Treating others right. Helping others will enjoy it. Happiness is guaranteed. We got rid of the ego. Selfishness is not allowed. We want us to have it. Peace that passes understanding. Helping others. We'll enjoy it. Happiness is guaranteed. Now, what else happened yesterday? Pat brought Glendora a very large Meals on Wheels. Meal on Wheels. It was vegetable soup. It was a slider that comes from White Tower. It's a vegetarian hamburger. She brought 2 of them on buns. She brought potato chips. She brought a iceberg lettuce salad with red peppers ground up in it. Not the hot ones, you know. With wishbone Italian dressing, I think is the best there is. She brought grapes. She brought a Twinkie from the Resource Center, which is the food pantry. They had a load of Twinkies. And our favorite potato chip, which is Frito-Lay Classic. I bought 3 bags this big, one for Madeline, one for Pat, and one for Glendora. We owe Pat the money for the medical alert. That's $29 a month. We have to call Robert Snyder. Not right now. He's busy going to church and working in the church without his brother Paul and without Bill Coonrod. We have an appointment with Terry Mooney, the funeral director, to set up the application for a county burial. We tell Terry all of our assets, which are nothing, and deliberately that way. Deliberately, that the money should all be distributed as it comes in. And then he will ask the county to pay for the funeral, which was $1,250 maximum that he can charge. And it's what you call a direct cremation, and the ashes will be sent here and go to the museum. I told you this yesterday, along with Franklin's ashes. Which museum? We're trying to make out the application to the veterans, I told you that, but we got nowhere on that. I believe we did do the voicemail, and Michael looked into an app that will tell you a joke at command. Glendora will be loyal to her joke collection, which is superb. And the joke collection is over here. Well, that's good. And the Bible passage collection. And the hymns, the list of hymns. What else? I asked Michael to load the C batteries in the CD player, no success. I asked Pat to do the same, no success. But I think it can be done. You take the new batteries that we bought and you put them in and keep out the two old batteries, the black ones. We bought 20 packages of cookies for the animals to feed them out the window and to feed them behind the garage. Pat read to Glendora from the Encyclopedia Britannica, 2 sections of the biography of Andrew Jackson, Tennessee. People say that Mr. Biden is now President of the United States. And I guess Mr. Trump is still asking for a recount. And I never understand who elects the President of the United States. It isn't the popular vote, is it? Isn't it the Electoral College? The college that doesn't have a football team? And you remember Samuel Tilden from West Lebanon, New York, Columbia County, the next right over here, next county over. He has a beautiful mansion at the foot of Lebanon Mountain, but he won the popular vote, but it was the Electoral College that put him in. And you remember Mr. Bush down in Florida? It was the United States Supreme Court that elected him, not the people. What else is going on, my dears? The Bible passage is walking in the Spirit, living in the Spirit, and walking in the Spirit. What's that mean? That means that we will pay attention to loving others, giving out love. That's where our attention will go. That's our God. That's whom we worship. That's the first commandment. No other gods before us. No other ego before us. we will give all of our attention to loving others and helping others. And others includes animals. And no self. We'll get rid of that self, which is a fiction, which has no life of its own, which is a scam and a sham. It gets you nowhere. It seduces you. It seduces us. It gets us nowhere. Glendora, we learn to speak in the first person plural. Words. I would like Pat or Sandy, when they come with Meals on Wheels for today, and I hope they will let me eat the leftovers of yesterday because Pat gave me so much. If they will go to the words and list you some new words. And some new jokes. And a new Bible passage, Wayne will give that to us, and a new hymn. Wayne Collins over in Pittsfield, who is so generous and so philanthropic in taking care of Glendora. I thought for a moment today, should we give this up? Should we give up Christian Science? Working to get the eyesight back, working to get the knee back into normalcy, all present blessings continue. Shall we give that all up? Shall we give up the calisthenics, exercising the body every morning? 4 sets of exercises. Shall we give up 30 telephone calls a day? Shall we give up the Bible through jokes every day? Shall we? Shall we give up making TV shows? Duplicating them? Putting disclaimers on them? Getting sponsors for 12, 24, I don't know, about 30 or 40 TV stations all over the country. Shall we give that up? Shall we give up the Glendora Public Access Television Network, 75 TV stations, Boston to San Diego? Did I mention 30 telephone calls a day? Exploring the computer phone and appreciating it for what it is, all those apps. Shall we give up Gmail and Facebook and Twitter and who's that new one? TikTok and Instagram? Give them all up? YouTube? Twitter? Give them all up? Should we stop answering the United States mail? Should we stop sending an article every week to the advertiser, the hometown newspaper? Hometown shopping news? Should we give that all up? Should we give up the museum? Should we give up a DC TV that we worked so hard on to satisfy and finally have got it in shape thanks to Robert Jackson? Shall we give up 15 drop boxes? Shall we give up 15 FTPs that Robert Jackson is doing, the biggest in the country? Manhattan Neighborhood Network, BronxNet, Free Speech, BCAT, Brooklyn? Shall we give them all up? Shall we stop making shows? What number are you on now? 12,000, 13,000 is it, or 12? It's 13,000. 250, 260. Should we give up going on errands and spending money and sending $200 to People TV in Atlanta? Shall we give up the veterans pension? $1,250 a month, survivor's pension? What do you think? Shall we give up trying to appease the owners of this property? That Glendora will have somebody with her? Daily? We certainly don't want to have any more applicants for the job. We have 19 that we can't help, that we can't employ, because we're full up. Well, you tell me. I'm going to try to find some jokes for you. Okay, dear ones, it was a serious attempt, but both microcassettes jammed in the microcassette player, the Olympus microcassette player. I don't know, I just cannot seem to operate those. So let me dig back in the memory. The college president was relieved of his duties, and in his final speech before the board of directors said, "I leave this position the same way I entered it, fired with enthusiasm." It was the first day of classes, and the professor came swaggering into the classroom and announced, "If there's any dumbbells in this class, I want you to stand up immediately." And a long time went by. Finally, a lone freshman in the back row stood up. The professor roared, "Are you a dumbbell?" And the little freshman said, "Well, no, sir, but I felt sorry for you standing up there all by yourself." What does a report card teach a parent? You don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. And one teacher said in the old days it was fun. The kids used to bring you apples. Now they just drive you bananas. And a professor said for every student with a spark of genius, there's 10 others with ignition problems. And when Bobby brought home his report card from school, his daddy said he must get his brains from me. And his mother said, "He must. I still have mine." We need time to look you up some fresh vocabulary words to keep our vocabularies fresh so that we can communicate with one another. That's very important. And so that we can communicate with the universe. Here's one of the favorite words. Afflatus. Just a second. An overpowering supernatural impulse. We have an overpowering supernatural impulse, don't we? To love one another and give up self, don't we? After all is said and done, the only thing that really matters is how did you treat others. Animals are others. You go vegan. No animal cruelty. In fact, harmlessness throughout your whole life. And helping others. And loving others. And getting rid of the self. No ego. The scam. Here's a good Bible passage. Be ye therefore harmless. And blameless. As children of God. In the midst of a wicked and perverse generation. Shine your light on the world. And also without blame. Be ye therefore harmless. Be ye therefore blameless and harmless. Without what? Blemish? Yeah, without blemish. And here's a hymn. I love to tell the story of unseen things above. Let me start that again. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and His glory, of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story because I know it's true. It satisfies my longing as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme in glory. The old story of Jesus and His love. Jimmy Carter, when he finished being governor of the state of Virginia, he went home to see his mom, and he was talking to her. She says, "What are you going to do next?" Typical mom question, right? And he says, "I'm going to be president," and she thought he meant of some little organization. And he says, "No, Mama, I'm going to be president of the United States." And a lot of you people don't know this, but up here around the Capital District of the state of New York, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Jimmy Carter was up here for a long time, and of course nobody knew it. He was in the Navy, and it had to do with the development of the atomic submarine, and of course who was handling that but General Electric Schenectady. So he was up here with us, unknown, for many years, 2-3 years I think. Well, we start a new season here. We start a new round. I have to tell you what happened on yesterday, Sunday, November 8th. These public access TV stations, all on a misconception, think that they can make us public access producers have a sponsor in their area. And my sponsor in Newark, New Jersey, just all of a sudden decided he didn't want to do it, or just disappeared or whatever. So I needed a new one, and I asked my friend Kenny Velez down there if he could help me find one. He said, no, we can't do that. He said that would be illegal. And a week or so went by, and I said, well, Kenny, can you send me a list of your producers and their telephone numbers? Oh, no, that would be violation of privacy. I said, now, wait a second, Kenny. You know, back about 20 years ago in New York City and in Buffalo, New York, the Nazis got a hold of public access TV, and they were trying to hide who they were, and it was discovered who they were, And since then, the state of New York made it mandatory that the names and addresses and telephone numbers of all public access producers must be available to the public. So pointing that out to my dear Kenny Velez, he says, I'll ask my supervisor. Well, when I called around a week later, Kenny says, well, you can come in and look at our list. Come into our office in Newark, New Jersey. And I don't think Glendora is quite up to that, do you? And so I called him another week later, and he said, we're going to ask some of the other producers if anybody wants to be your sponsor. Well, yesterday afternoon, I got a lovely telephone call from a lady named Brown, and she says, you want a producer, or you want a sponsor, you want me to sign your application. She says, what is your show about? And I said, well, the whole show is about one thing, one message. When all is said and done, the only thing that really matters is how did you treat others? She says, I'll sponsor you. She says, I will be your executive producer. So she says, let me get the forms, and then I'll call you up in a few days, and we'll make out the form. Isn't it great how God works in mysterious ways? Another good thing happened yesterday is Gary Black up in Buffalo, Hamburg, New York, Indian Orchard. Indian Orchard? No, honey, that's in Springfield. What is the name of that town outside of Buffalo? He has been in communication with our dear Robert Jackson, and they are going to have a shared Dropbox, and Robert Jackson is going to send Kenny for a chat with Glendora programs, 4 half hours, and not Kenny, but Gary Black, and Gary Black is going to, and Gary Black has the email of about 10, 15 TV stations of Glendora's that she's on, and he's going to send the program by Dropbox to each of those 10 or 15 TV stations, and that will be for a 2-month period, and then in another 2 months they get another group of 4. So Gary called and said he'd missed my telephone calls and that he was calling back. So that's the next thing on that. DC TV, which has been a perennial problem for 20 years. I think Robert Jackson finally has it all ironed out with lovely Karen Beasley.